All right? Oh, what's that? Hold up, I missed that. Hold on a second. Time out, time out. Music is a little loud, I can't hear you. You were saying what? My bad. Okay. And you're going to do what? Are you crazy? No. You've been at this far too long to quit. And what if I told you that most people that quit are hanging from something? They're afraid to let go because the drop would kill them. But when you pan back and you look at the wide picture, you notice that this person's feet, even though they're hanging on for dear life, is this far from the ground. They just don't know it. Most of the times when we quit, we are so close to success, but we're not aware of it. So here are some, actually 7, it is some, but here are 7 of the biggest mistakes that parents and students make before students become disillusioned, start to fail, and ultimately drop out of school. Now, the number one reason, in my opinion, though this list is not in any particular order, the number one reason, if you ask me, is planning. Far too often these days, people are having children without proper planning. And I know I'm talking to a society of people that have figured out how to hop, skip, leapfrog over the process of forming a union with someone and planning for the birth of their children. This, to me, has been a particular demise, especially in my community. Over 80% of our children are being born out of wedlock in single-family homes. The number one determinant factor for a child ending up on the wrong side of life. The stats are these. 75% of all crimes are committed by people that have dropped out of school. That's the only one I'm going to give you, and that's the only one you need. The other one, for our community, African American community, our boys in single-family homes are reading at an average at the 4th grade reading level. It is egregious. They say to give a child the best opportunity in life is to have 2 parents in the home. Why? Because one parent provides one thing, and then the thing the student or the child needs to become a student is offered by the other parent. Oftentimes, that parent, which is the male, is missing. Men provide structure that is important for the development of children. They say that when a man is in the home, if it is planned properly and parents come together, form a union, that the likelihood of your child either being in some sort of vagrancy goes down exponentially. So plan. I spent a minute on number 1 because I think it is very important. It's my number 1. It may not be yours. And there's no hierarchy to this list, but I believe this is number 1. Number 2, once all the planning is set up, meaning that the values are instilled in both of the parents, they're checked, everything is fine. The environment that the child is going to come into is fine. You have socioeconomically sound parents. All of this is part of planning. But once the child gets there and the planning is done, there's something that trumps everything else in regards to your child's psychological development. It's paying attention to them, getting to learn about your child's educational needs. And this starts from the very second you lay eyes on them. It starts from the moment they start to hear and start to feel and start to perceive. You can start reading to your child in the womb. They say the children that are read to have better developmental arcs in life. They're more successful in life. And this is all part of planning. But it also bleeds into the second thing, which is getting to know your particular child's educational needs. Some of us are born with dyslexia and all of these other things. I think there's 7 of the top mental disorders associated with learning have been delineated. Dyslexia is on that list. There are a number of others. And as parents, we're not given a manual on this stuff. We don't know some of the small learning capabilities or incapabilities that our children, our child, our infant may have to face in life. There's no manual on this child. We have to pay particular attention to motor skills, how fast they walk, how fast they start talking. All of these things contribute to what you may call an assessment of your child's mental aptitude. And once you figure that out, and be honest with yourself. I know all of us are going to say, my child's the brightest, the best, the baddest. We get it. But some of our children are faced with learning disabilities. And as parents, it is our job to be perceptive enough. Pay attention to our children throughout infancy and watch their progress in order to pick up in these particular idiosyncrasies in our children. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, according to my list, clear and concise communication and a set expectation of goals. That's important. I don't know how many people do that, but I was never given that talk as a child by any adult, certainly not by my parents or my parent in my case. One mother in my situation, trying to keep things together, but definitely not doing what was necessary for my educational development. I was completely in charge of that, and thank God I didn't have any developmental skills or developmental deficiencies, pardon me. Otherwise, I would have been stuck trying to figure it out myself. But there are millions of students, young people, infants that are going through this process that are unaware. And if there were only an adult next to them paying attention, they can help them figure this out. So back to number 3, which is clear and concise communication of goals and objectives. Number 3. The other part of this is what I believe is an egregious mistake, is that we tell children, students, even ourselves, to set a goal and this is what we need you to do, or you set the goal with them. But one thing we do not do, we do tell them what to do, but very rarely are we told how to do it and given step-by-step instruction on the process. Parents, school is that difficult that the teacher's job has to be supplemented and done years before the child even reaches kindergarten. Has to be supplemented by the efforts of the parent. So I'm going to stop here for just a moment and talk about the legacy of learning. And that's what this is for. This is to help a child through, assuming you've planned, assuming you've set structure, assuming you've paid attention to your child as they've been growing up and going through their developmental stages. And now you have an opportunity to put in tools, tips, and techniques. This is how you do it with the legacy of learning. This helps you with number 3, which is a clear, concise communication of goals and a step-by-step process of how to do it. The teachers will do their job. They're going to be teaching arithmetic, academic work. The legacy of learning teaches them a game of how to be a student and how to master their environment, how to prep for school, how to knock tasks out, how to register early, how to finish a paper no matter how large the paper is with a simple format. Things along these lines, structured in an interactive system that helps them tool up their utility belt and give them the skills they need to become an intellectual master, get out of school, and then on their way to their calling. So let's move on to number 4. Constant, incessant support and involvement in your child's process. That means PTA, talking to the coaches, extracurricular activity involvement, being that dad, that mom that shows up to the football game and sprinkles cheese on Doritos and helps the school raise money. Be involved with the educational process, the institution itself for your children. Moving on to number 6, get to know your children's friends. I know they say this all the time, but it's so important. Get to know them. Not only do you get to know them, encourage and what you call foster the relationship with the positive ones and run off the bad ones. And I mean physically, verbally, if needed. Run them off and tell them don't return. It is that important. Now, children are going to do what they want to. But if they know that you care and you have clear and concise ongoing communication with your child, instructing them on the quality of people that may come around them, or giving them a heads up on something you see in someone that they're hanging with, that you don't agree with, is something you owe your child to help keep them on the path. Keep negativity. Be their champion. Be their gladiator. And if you see something coming at them, someone, put on your armor and deflect it. Get them out the way so your child can continue on their course. Number 7, and I'm going to lump a few of them in here. I always give more, man. That's my problem. How do I tell you 7 and give you 9, 10? Well, it's along the lines of how I was taught as an entrepreneur and as a businessman, an ethical businessman, which is to deliver, to promise low and to deliver high. Promise low and deliver high. So here's 2 more I think that are important. Understanding the realities of the American educational system. What's going on in schools? Are schools meeting their obligations to parents and students? What's going on the college level? How many institutions are actually taking your money? What's the difference between a $1 million school and a JC? And after doing all of that, you'll have your schema, your schematics for helping your child and you navigate the next few years of educational decisions that need to be made. But at that point, it would be the institution that your child is going to. And the last one, man, that I'd like to offer. Parents may not consider this. Some of us are like me, very controlling, because we know what structure can do for your life and we know how important it is to have structure. But listen to your children. Just let them express themselves. Laugh with them. Get to know them. But more importantly, do not send your child to an institution that they are vehemently opposed to. Do not force your child to go to a school that they do not want to go to. Oh, you know best. I get it. But imagine this. If we flip the coin and we send that same child to a school that you both agree on, now you can hold them accountable. Now they're happy. Now there's no excuses. Now you both are on the same accord. Make the sacrifice if need be. It might be a couple extra $100 a month. It might be reaching out to a family member to ask for help. But if it's a financial concern, hopefully there are ways that your child and you can surmount those concerns, getting them to the school of their choice. So these are 7, 8, 9 of the biggest mistakes I believe that parents and students make before students become disillusioned, they start to fail or they drop out. And before I leave, I always go with a story. I dropped out of college. And while I'm doing this piece, the 7 biggest mistakes that parents and students make, I came to that reality. I had to be honest to myself. I started college, my freshman year, my GPA dropped, and then I went back home in order to go to junior college. But before I enrolled and applied to the junior college of my choice, I started working. That work period was about a year before I looked up. And I was enrolled after 2 semesters back into school. But for all intents and purposes, if I were to be completely honest, that point in time, I dropped out of school. I did. My next transmission would be to talk about my process and to also talk about the 7 biggest mistakes that students make before they become disillusioned. They start to fail, and ultimately, they drop out. Hey, you guys, thanks for logging in, checking out what I had to offer today. It came from a place that I thought I'm always positive, but it would be smart to talk about some of the negative and turn it into a positive so that you can conquer the first few steps, the building blocks to your intellectual journey in life so that you can get onto your passion and do what you need to do. So that learn to be your legacy. Learn about the mistakes that people make that thwart them in the process of learning. I thought this would make more sense. What are some of the things I may come up against? So hopefully this helped you. I'm Ron Raphael. Let learning be your legacy. Add something to your bag every day, every week. And I catch you next time on the learning legacy of learning. Peace.